if you can imagine it, the unrealized potential of fan fiction for conflict resolution professionals. I am pitching today the possibility that we all go out and start writing fan fiction. That writing fan fiction is a way to improve our skills. It is a way to improve our ability to work with parties. It is something that can improve how the parties respond in conflict, and it can actually create an entire cultural shift around how we deal with conflict resolution if we simply take this next step. So what is fan fiction? For those of you who have not come across it, not read it, most people hear it in a really pejorative sense. You hear about fan fiction, you think, oh, it's a bunch of fangirls writing all kinds of weird, basically gay porn. That's really all you hear about. It is not what fan fiction is. It's not what fan fiction needs to be. Fan fiction is really just a work of fiction based on an existing character, an existing setting, where fans are coming and taking that work, using it for their own purposes, creating something new, different, potentially really vibrant. Most of us will recognize, if we know anything about it, that it really took off with Star Trek, but with the internet, it has gone places. It has gone so far that now we have archive of our own. AO3 has actually been recognized. It has been nominated for a Hugo Award this year within the related works category because there is so much fantastic work taking place. So we're starting to get some respect, a little bit of respect in the fan fiction world, but not enough respect, not enough recognition. That despite the fact that there are actually peer-reviewed journals that tackle fan fiction and look at it and explore it. It is a study, it is an area of serious study, and rightly so in my personal opinion. All right, why should we write it as conflict resolution professionals? Well, why do people write fan fiction now? A lot of people start it to practice their writing skills. It's an opportunity to work in a world in which they already know and actually just practice writing. It is a place to imagine possibilities that they wish would occur. You find a lot, for instance, in the era of Me Too. We see huge amounts of fan fiction where what you actually see is people understanding consent. All kinds of romantic relationships in which consent is actually clearly defined. And all of a sudden you start getting this evolution of understanding around what it might look like if the world really worked those ways and if people actually really did it that way. The third thing that people do with fan fiction is write to improve representation. I think all three of these are things that apply to conflict resolution. In the case of writing to improve representation, often in fan fiction, that is a question that has been something about LGBTQ representation that doesn't take place on TV, for instance. Huge places where you see it is particularly in franchises that seem to have a really bad habit of queer baiting. That you will find vast amounts of fan fiction written where people actually take characters and place them together in romantic relationships because it has been teased throughout the series and not actually realized. So it's not surprising that Supernatural has by far the most fan fiction written on AO3. Okay, yes, I had to say it, sorry. In the conflict resolution environment, translating these, practicing skills. You actually learn better by writing if you are learning a foreign language. I say that applies directly to also learning what is really a foreign language using all of our active listening skills. It's the same kind of brain pattern. If we write it, we learn it. We write it down, we're better at it ourselves. Similarly, imagining possibilities, just take something and write for once about what it would look like if these characters behaved in rational ways, first of all, but also in ways that have good conflict resolution. So I think this is a possibility. This is a scene from an episode that we created way back, rewriting Hamlet for that purpose. My last one, culture change. Wow, if people actually are exposed to seeing what it would look like, maybe we'd actually see people starting to engage in that way. And that's as far as I'm going to go today. This is a teaser only. But I do think that there's a lot to talk about and there's a lot we can engage with if we go forward. So join me on June 17th. Haha. And questions? Oh, okay. Jeremy?
What's Supernatural?
What is Supernatural? It is a television program that if you pull up the definition of queerbaiting on any, Google it, Supernatural will come up as a definition. It is a show in which brothers go hunting ghosts and other supernatural things, and angels are involved. And it's an interesting one in which main characters have been shipped together for many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long is fan fiction when you write it? Is it
dramatically different. I was trying to come up with some things to encourage people to read for the June 17th session. I was having a lot of trouble finding things because the things I was finding were actually falling into some categories that maybe we didn't want to have people read necessarily, but they were also really long fic. They were running something like 100,000 words, so full novels. But both Darcy and Rowan have kindly created things for me that I will be sharing as things to read, which are more both under 1,000 words. So you can take almost anything and write it at any length. And just to add, I talked about fan fiction, but you can also create other kinds of fan art. So it's possible also to be talking about things like a piece of art that captures the same kinds of images. It's possible to recreate through video combinations. As I said, the one that I created was a Hamlet, and it was actually a filmed version. So things like that are possibilities as well.
I'm very curious as to how we live, because obviously like everybody else, I'm sure. One of the things that impresses me is that people, I guess we live in an economy rather than in a society, So motivations are often for economic reasons. You hear people talking about the Northwest Passage as being a wonderful thing now that it's free of ice and things like this. So it occurs to me that if we have different brownie points socially for more life-giving attitudes among people, being recognized and being rewarded, we have so much that we don't need more. So if we keep on rewarding socially people for having more, for making more money, having more of this and more of that, the path is clear, and that's where we're going. So I've been trying to think of different ways of presenting social brownie points to encourage somewhat different attitudes towards each other and towards the environment. This seems like a good tool to do that with.
I think it would be a fantastic tool. The question is the audience you get for the fan fiction. So you need to, I think we also need to build the right audience and have people reading it, placing it. Because I'm looking around the room and doubting that very many people in this room, for instance, have accessed Archive of Our Own and looked at the fan fiction there. So it might be a matter of finding the placement for those kinds of things to get the work that we create out to the world that we want to be reading it.
Use it or it doesn't get
Yeah.
shared.
And done.
So how excited are you to have 2 Hugo Award nominated writers in the room?
They've both published on Archive of Our Own and therefore are part of the Hugo nomination. I feel that we should just applaud
You're
them.
done.
All right.
You're done. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.